Hello everyone and welcome to Communication in the Workplace, Keys to Effective Communication. My name is Warran Barham and I'll be your instructor for the next few minutes to help you understand how important communication is here at our company. But before we can talk about communication, we first need to understand what it is. What is communication? Ask yourselves that question. Textbook definition: a meaningful exchange of information through messages. However, a lot of you know you don't have to talk to communicate. So to me, an intended or unintended transfer of signals that convey feeling, emotion, or data. But that's how I feel about it. What's communication mean to you? Now, at our company here, we use three types of communication. The first, oral communication. Whether it's face-to-face or on the phone, tone is very important. The receiver could take your meaning very differently than you intended them to just because of your tone and your attitude. Written communication, we use emails a lot here. Tone is very important here too, if not more so, because the receiver cannot see you and you can't see them, so you don't know if your message was taken the way you expected it to be taken. Nonverbal communication. Now, we've all had bad days, and sometimes an unintended roll of the eyes or body language or a gesture can give off the wrong idea to coworkers and supervisors, so be careful. Now, here at our company, the process of communication is simple. We use formal channels. This carries information that flows through the chain of command. Now, whether it's upward flow, where information goes up the chain of command, or downward flow, which is what we use most here, is when information gets passed down, and also horizontal flow. Now, that's something that we use, speaking amongst ourselves, to get the job done. Now, there are also informal channels that go on here. That's the good old great gossip and the grapevine. But you got to be careful about what you hear versus what you listen to, because sometimes listening is key to obtaining clarification on what you actually heard. Now, if I lost you there, let me clarify. Are you listening? Now, we've got cynical and defensive listening. This occurs when the receiver of message feels that the sender is trying to gain some advantage from the communication. Offensive listening. The receiver tries to catch the speaker in a mistake or contradiction. Or just polite listening, just listening to be polite rather than to contribute to the conversation. Rehearsing what you're going to say next when the speaker gets finished. But active listening. Are you using it? This is where you need to be. It requires involvement with the information and empathy with the speaker's situation. Wherever you are, and whatever you do, active listening is the basis for effective communication. Now, communication ethics. If you think about the cynical or defensive listening, the offensive listening, the polite listening, are these ethical? Let me give you a situation. Say your coworker is driving you crazy. All right, and you run and you tell your buddy over here that this person is getting on your nerves. Well, that's unethical. The coworker might not know he or she is being annoying, and by talking behind their back doesn't solve anything. It's important to practice ethical communication for resolving conflicts, as well as everyday interactions. No one likes being talked about behind the back. Now, let's talk about some fundamentals real quick. Ask yourself these questions. Are you attentive when you're in a conversation? Are you paying attention to what the speaker is actually saying? Do you keep an open mind? Or is your idea the only one that means anything to you? Do you like to interrupt? Is what you have to say more important than what they're trying to say to you? Are you empathetic? Or are you only worried about what you got to say? Only worried about what you got to do? Do you ask questions? Do you get involved? Remember, active listening requires involvement. It requires being a part of the communication, of the conversation. If you can answer yes to any of these questions, you run into communication barriers. Now, communication barriers, number one, bypassing. This is when you miss people, when people miss each other with their meanings. Common with emails, of course. The sender wants one thing, the receiver thinks something totally different, simply because of wording in that email. You end up with something totally off the wall. Distractions. Now, I'm not talking about how noisy the plan is. I'm talking about distractions such as fear, resentment, hostility, or some other strong emotion that clouds your judgment. Also here, multitasking, information overload, and conflicting demands. You need clear communication requires focusing on the task at hand. End up multitasking and all of that stuff and get you messed up upstairs. Different frames of reference. Now, these bias expectations brought forth by your own experiences. And what I mean by that is two people can look at the same situation and have two separate ideas of what to do about it. Active listening again, remember, have an open mind. Weak language skills. Now, as much as I like to use slang outside of the workplace, in the workplace, a more adequate vocabulary in basic punctuation and grammar is essential for good communication. Poor listening skills. Now remember active listening. I cannot stress active listening enough. Listening skills, they're needed for effective communication. Poor listening skills can be the most troublesome barrier to overcome, but that depends on you. Practice, practice, practice. Now, to overcome these barriers, you listening? See how I did that? All right. Learn and apply good communication skills. Use those fundamentals we talked about. Be attentive. Have an open mind. Don't interrupt. Be empathetic. Ask questions. Get involved. All that's wrapped up into what? Active listening. Learn to think critically. Something doesn't seem right, ask a question. If you feel on an email that there's a chance, if you read it and there's a chance that somebody can take it the wrong way, edit it before you send it. There it is again. Use active listening. Practice, practice, practice. It's not going to happen overnight. Practice. Be objective. Have an open mind. Recognize your own biases and strive to keep them from distorting your views at work. All right. What are we talking about? Active communication. Applying it. Let's go. All right. Next time you're in a conversation, apply these fundamentals. All right. Any conversation. Right now, use these fundamentals. Maintain good eye contact. Let that speaker know that you're there. Maintain good posture, good gestures. Now, this is important. Know your role. Now, when I say know your role, I'm not trying to be the rock. You know, you got to know your role in the conversation. If this is a conversation that requires you to take action when the conversation is done, active listening is very important. All right. Work harder at listening. There it is again. Cannot stress it enough. And focus on what's important. All right? You can't be thinking about the phone call you just got or where you got to go, or even if you got to go to the bathroom in the middle of a conversation. Stop the conversation. Say, excuse me. Do what you got to do. Come back. Focus. Active listening. All right. Now. And in conclusion, all right, remember, communication is key. Communication is key to an effective working environment, to a team, in life. Communication. For a company to work as a cohesive unit, all focused on the same goals, communication. Listening is vital. Use active listening. Practice, practice, practice. All right. And proper skills are essential in the workplace. All right. Active listening, good language skills, oral, written communication, nonverbal communication. Be careful. Know your barriers. Know how to overcome those barriers. All of that together is going to create an effective team here at our company. We have to work together to make this work. We have to start with each individual conversation, eye contact, active listening. You knew I was going to say that, didn't you? Active listening, active listening, active listening. Communication. That's the end of my class. Thank you. If there's any questions, you can ask me now. Have a good day. Remember, active listening. Thank you.